In the initial verse, at the spiritual training ground of Deer Park, the Buddha thrice turned the Dharma view of the Four Noble Truths. So obviously, as you all know, they went to Deer Park. I think this is in Sarnath in India, and which is if you go on a pilgrimage trip, this is one of the places you will be going. And but interestingly, he had done it twice. In other words, even for the Four Noble Truths, he has explained it 3 times to the 5 executive practitioners. We'll come to that later. We taught all spiritual practitioners to diligently practice the 3 4s and the 2 5s, the teaching praised by the sages. The sages are obviously here in this context, referring to the invisible beings. So to gain liberation, to transcend life and death, and become a spiritual practitioner free and unbound, one must diligently cultivate this. Yes, so that our minds become unhindered to seek for liberation. So Master's explanation here, listening to teachings goes beyond just hearing. The reason we do not understand is that we have not yet put them into practice. And to me, I think this is a very important line. We can listen and we can know and we can understand, but realization does not come unless you can contemplate and you experience. So of this hearing, we must experience. That is based on the understanding that we know. And from that experience, you have to contemplate on what you have experienced, then only realization can come about, which is what Master is trying to say here. So the 3 treasures of the triple gem, as we often refer to, the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha, and this was formed at the Deer Park, where they taught them 4 Noble Truths 3 times, and to the 5 ascetic practitioners. Obviously, these 5, as you know, based on the past story, they were practicing together with the Buddha. It's only when they went into this extreme practice, they have been doing ascetic extreme practice, just like Mahakassapa has done until obviously then met the Buddha, and he still continue in some ways, to some extent, ascetic practice. But it was then that at the Uruvela Valley, that at a cave there, he meditated to the extent that he was just like a bones. But that almost at a point of life, he was waking up and he realized that that's not the way. That's when he woke up and walked down towards the Nahangara River to actually understood and realize, and this is what by going through, putting into practice, and realize that it's not the way. So there must be another way. And obviously, as we know, that he then journeyed on the Bodh Gaya and sat on the Bodhi tree and made them vow that he will not get away from the Bodhi tree until he attained enlightenment. So he taught all the spiritual practitioners to practice the 3 4s and 2 5s. At that time, obviously, 3 4s, as you all know, 4 for mindfulness, 4 right efforts, and 4 bases of feeling power. And the 5 being the 5 spiritual roots and the 5 spiritual powers. So all the Buddhas know that for Dharma to remain this world, they cannot teach it from the perspective of an enlightened one. The Buddha is named enlightenment. So it was then, over 21 days, it taught about Amsaka Sutra. And even when it taught that to the invisible beings, some of them, and these are enlightened beings, they couldn't fully understand. So then, therefore, he realized that when he sat on a Bodhi tree and trying to ask himself, how can he then propound the Dharma to human beings. And that's why through that time that he thought that he would not be able to do so. And I say it's too profound for human beings to understand. That's when the Brahma came, leaded to the Buddha to ask him to share the Dharma of the truth. So the people's greed is bottomless, and it's never enough. And as you all know, just look every year when Forbes publish the multi-billionaires, where is the end? And if one then realize how to one practice in terms of the accumulation of material wealth, really at the end of the day, it's only a number. It's just never about how much the one has. It's about just changing that number. So people cannot clearly distinguish between the life of blessings and amount of suffering. So if one is well blessed with all the things that one have, that is not enough. I need to increase that number. And that at the end of the day, blends up one to suffering, because at the end of the day, one have to depart, one have to leave whatever they have. So the Four Noble Truth and the 37 practices to enlightenment are not, obviously they're not all the teachings. They're only there to guide people to develop the interest in the Dharma. And obviously then beyond that, the first turning of the view, there were a lot more teachings. And that then continued with the Agama period, the Vaipuya period, then Prajna period, and towards the Lotus Sutra. So the lessons learned. When we practice and attain realization together, there's nothing we do not understand. And going back to what I mistake in the initial words, that the reason why Master said we can listen to Dhamma, and I need to say that when you listen to the words, you know what's being spoken. You can even try to understand what the spoken words are, but that's the limit. But when you apply in practice, the only difference is when you apply it in practice is that, and then you realize what it means, and you dwell further into that through your contemplation to get a realization, is that you begin to understand what is in behind those words and what's in between the words, and that's the difference. Because hearing will only get you to understand as much as in the written words or the spoken words. So if you do not understand something, you must not let that question remain on our mind, but instead ask the senior fellow practitioners, because they will then be able to explain what it is. So put your mind at ease with the 5 spiritual roots and the 5 spiritual powers, and give rise to all virtues Dharma. So the five roots and 5 powers are that of faith, effort, mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom. And so upholding that faith in the teaching is important, because without the root of faith, you cannot have the power of the faith for you to grow. And without the root of the effort, then how can we want to have the power of effort to continue in this path? And why do you need the power of effort? Because this journey is one of immeasurable distance. And Buddha has shown that it's through how many innumerable kalpas. It's 3 great eons for the Buddha to attain enlightenment. And within 1 great eon, there are innumerable kalpas that one have to go through. So therefore, that effort is extremely important. And the third root being the root of mindfulness. And that mindfulness is the one that can enable you to grow in the consciousness of your practice. And so therefore, with that root of confidence comes the power of that consciousness, and then the concentration, and that concentration that one will have to get into, so that one does not deviate and be focused on the path. And lastly, being the root of wisdom, want to grow into the supreme enlightenment power of that wisdom. So thus we must be mindful in our daily living, which mindfulness being the third root in here. So to learn the Buddha's way, we must understand the process of engaging in spiritual practice. Then we absolutely must not become lax, and which is why Maharaj just mentioned, and to have that effort, we being in the second root, so that we do not become lax in our practice. So in contemplation, you have earned well to realize and be in this lifetime of moments, and that will pass through every day. So make them flawless in your practice, to make them flawless in your practice through the different practices of enlightenment, and also can engage in the flawless study, which some summarize as precept, samadhi, and wisdom. So you will then live in a lifetime of flawless moments that we pass through. One who is ever in practice, and that is the one that we apply, the one we have understood when we listen to the Dharma into our daily life. So flawless moments are when the moments in practice are rooted, which I've just explained by how you have to need the 5 spiritual roots, are deepened so that you cannot be easily blown off by the worldly winds, by the 8 worldly winds who will sweep on us, sweep our feet at any moment in time. Broaden so that we can learn a greater to have the greater, more teachings, newer teachings, and then elevated teachings, which is a higher teachings, so that we can expand our consciousness and encompass the great loving heart for all within us. So abide in the moments of diligent practice, so that they are flawlessly non-retreating. So with that, the 3 4s and the 2 5s, especially we've grown in the 5 spiritual powers, and then we become non-retreating in our practice. So on relationship, discord in a relationship, sometimes we do have obviously discord in a relationship, but discord does not hurt just one person, but an entire family, a community, or even a country. And this depends, and even the entire world, depending on how influential one is. We have seen how one president of a powerful country can affect the whole world. So therefore, the influence of one, especially a very powerful person, an influential person, and that is a part that initially masters say, one does not even understand. If one gets so confused that the blessing that one has, then will lead to suffering. Because one who has a huge blessing have great influence. One have therefore have great influence. A wrong thought, a wrong speech, and a wrong action can affect many people under him. So conflicts lead to anger and hatred, unending vengeance over generations, because that hurt that one has will never know how much one have an impact on the future manifestation of karma that we have done in this lifetime. And look at the decision that we have in our country, at least had led to the increase the number of suicides in this country. So the world is dark enough as we are, but it is right now. Learn to live harmoniously, humanity, and we do not need to create any further darkness out of our own delusion and our way of life. So we need to be awakened. So, Kanan, brothers and sisters.
Yeah, I wish to express our deepest kannan to BrotherChin for your flawless, marvelous sharing. Always, BrotherChin.